Hi everyone, welcome back to the Power Hour podcast. I'm super excited to be here, and I've just warned Kat that I'm a bit rusty. I haven't done this in a few weeks, so yeah, it's been a while since I've actually spoken to someone, but I'm so happy to be here and actually recording one of these episodes for you. And yeah, we've got Kat Schneider, as you've probably seen in the thumbnail and also the title. Kat, I've been excited to do this for a while because I've been following your journey, especially when I broke into the space, and you've been an MVP for a few years, so got a lot to dig into here. But just for the people who might not know who you are, could I just get a quick insight into Kat Schneider, kind of where you are in your career, maybe some early projects that you've worked on now, and then, yeah, in general, kind of what your main responsibilities are in your work.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Kat Schneider. I am based out of Florida, and I work for Hitachi Solutions, which is only recently within the last year and a half-ish that I started working there. My original career, if you will, was working for the state of Florida. I worked there for almost 15 years as a business user. Worked for Department of Environmental Protection, then I worked for the Department of Transportation. Did a lot of things. A lot of it was data based. Not a database, but data based.
Understood, yeah.
I did a lot of things with data. Data is like my jam. I love data. I love getting into data, trying to figure out why people, set up their data the way that they did, and figure out what information is stored where. That's one of my favorite pieces of getting into a new project. But let's see. So I was there, state of Florida, for about 15 years, figured out what the Power Platform was through mentorship program, and then ended up speaking at a couple of different conferences. Attended the first ever Microsoft Power Platform conference in Orlando, which was a blast. I did not, quote unquote, speak officially at that conference, but that was the very first Power Platform community call conference or community call that I spoke at, but it was in person instead of online. And that's when I did a bit about parsing JSON in Power Apps with the use of Power Automate and using a little bit of regex. So did that. It was my most favorite thing that Microsoft decided to drop the parse JSON function on that Friday before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then
Love
I
it.
was like, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You are the best. But I did my session dressed up as a wizard.
Nice.
April Dunham was in like the front row taking pictures and tweeting about me. I literally lost my mind. I was like, this is April Dunham. This is who I learned
Yeah.
Power Platform from. Her and Matthew Devaney and Shane Young, the three of them. That's how I got into the Power Platform, actually doing these things. And then I ended up becoming like besties with Matthew Devaney, and Shane Young was just like the coolest, nicest person ever. And it was just a completely mind blowing experience for me. But the Friday before I had left, I had gotten an offer from organization out in California to be their Power Platform dev, and I was just like, oh my god, like I'm getting ready to go to this conference. Let me have like a week or so to think about this, and I'll get back to you. And in the middle of that conference, Microsoft called me to offer me a job, and I was just like, oh my god. And I'm sitting there on the phone with the lady, and she like lists off all of these things, and she's like, well, how does that sound? And I was like, well, it sounds a lot like numbers I've never heard as a state employee. um, I'm gonna have to
Makes
think
sense.
about this. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so that Friday I called back to the organization. I was like, listen guys, like I hit it off with you guys almost immediately. Every single person that I've talked to, I've clicked with. Like the vibe's just been there. Um, I know you'll never be able to compete on a monetary level with Microsoft because you're 140 people strong, whereas they're a ridiculous number of people strong. And I was like, would you be able to match base? And they're like, let us talk and we'll give you a call back. And less than 5 minutes later, they called me and they're like, yes, we'll match base. And I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
That's an extra 30K. That's an entire state employee's like salary right there.
Mm.
Yep. And I was like, well, Microsoft, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
So went to go work for them for a year and a half or so before Matthew called me and was just like, hey, You want to come work with me over here at Hitachi?" And I was like, "That sounds like a blast. Yes, let's do that." So then I went and joined him, and in between leaving that company and joining on at Hitachi, it was my first ever MVP summit, and that was one of the most insane experiences that I'd ever had in my life. Like, literally, I am in a crowd of people that I've seen online, on videos, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, like wherever, just insanely brilliant people. And then people who were so excited to see me. Like one person, Daniel Glenn, we had walked up to him, myself, my friend Lindsay Shelton, we'd both kind of walked up to him to introduce ourselves. And she's like, she introduces herself, and I introduced myself, and Daniel's like, "Kat." And I was like, "Yeah, Kat Schneider." And he, like, we had just shaken hands, and he, like, reaches out and gives me the biggest hug, and he's like, "Kat, oh my God." And I was just like, "Oh my God, Daniel knows me." So it was like, it was very exciting, but also a really humbling experience to know that there were other people that were out there that knew me, that, like, they wanted to meet me. They like been following me. It's just like, it was an incredible journey,
Yeah.
and an incredible experience. And then getting to talk with the product teams, and then getting, like, I first started making friends with the Power Platform product team at that MVP summit. Like, I had never, like, I had gone to these events, and I knew that the product teams were there at the events, but I didn't really know how to speak to them. And then attending MVP Summit, and then getting to actually meet them on a one-on-one basis, like Marcel Ferreira, like, he's sitting there, he's like, "What are you talking about? You're not a pro dev." He's like, "You're literally sitting here talking to me about YAML and this," and he's like, there's no pro dev, there's no low code dev, you're a dev." And I was like, "Oh, like, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me."
Yeah.
So, it's been a journey, it's been an experience, but it's also been something incredible that, like, I'm glad to be a part of this community, but I'm also glad to be able to give back to the community on, like, a regular basis. So
Yeah.
even if I'm not, like, doing something with blogs, because, like, I tried the whole blog situation, and the blogging was okay, but I'm not a writer. I wanted to do videos, but I'm not a video producer. Like, I have ADHD, so it's a little bit of this, that, and the other all over the place. So whatever happens, happens, and for however long it happens, is for however long it happens. But, any way, shape, or form that I can give back to the community, that's what I want to do. I just love giving back to the people that have helped
Yeah.
me, and the people
Yeah.
that are coming up that they haven't helped anybody yet. But, if I can be that spark that inspires them to, go out and do something and help others because, I was able to help them, then by all means, I'm happy to do it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kat, I'm gonna be honest with you because we spoke about the direction I had for this podcast before
yeah.
starting, but after hearing everything you just said, completely changed. I mean,
Plan
like
out the
a bit
window.
of yeah, no, but in the best way possible. I mean, a lot there I didn't know about you, and I feel like I do quite a bit of research on people before these podcasts generally. I mean, firstly, just a bit of insight into myself, and a lot of people probably listening to this have followed my story. But starting off, I felt like the resources in the Power Platform, there were a lot of people doing them, but I felt like there could have been more, and there always can be more, which is why I have so much respect for people who give back to the community and who give their own time to do this stuff for free. And similar stories to you with people like Matthew Devaney and Shane Young and Reza Durrani, all of these people that I was learning from, and I was like, this stupid Power App thing, and I was smashing my head on the keyboard trying to figure out patch functions and all of this crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's talk about community, because
Let's do it.
straight away, just hearing from your introduction, that's what struck your heart. That's what made you, like, energized, and you spoke about it with a lot of joy, and I feel like I share that as well with you. So you mentioned your community journey. My question to you would be, what advice would you give someone who wants to start contributing to the community, but they don't know the first step that they should take. What advice would you give to someone who maybe knows the why that they should do it, but they don't know the how?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to get into the community. Mainly it's just taking that step, asking a question, talking to somebody, whatever it could be. So like myself, I am running a user group with
Yes.
Anya Black and Charles Sexton. It's Power Platform UX UI Allies, allies being for accessibility. Accessibility is near and dear to my heart, especially because I spent 15 years working for the state where accessibility was drilled into us. Because as a state agency, everything needed to be accessible. Otherwise, you were going to have people coming after you with, at one point in time, I heard a $50 million lawsuit because something wasn't accessible. That's a lot of money. And you don't,
Yes, it is.
like, because something wasn't accessible to somebody, so like your PDFs that you had or your documentation of how somebody can apply to access whatever, like that's not accessible. Therefore, here's a $50 million lawsuit. Oh no, like that was not acceptable. So accessibility is my thing. I love seeing people talk about like the different things that they're doing in the Power Platform to make things accessible, like the different viewpoints or the different things that they've had like happen to them in learning, oh, I need to keep this in the back of my head whenever I'm developing because this could be somebody that's using my application later on. Like all of these things, like all of this to say, I should say, is that I have a user group. So come talk to me. If there's something that you really loved, like you saw the user group or you saw a recording out online and now, you think that, hey, I've got this small little thing that I've picked up and I don't know if I can share it. And it's like, yes, absolutely. Please, please, I'm begging you to come share it because I cannot tell you how many times, even as a seasoned user of the Power Platform, seeing somebody come in fresh into the Power Platform and explain what it is that they've learned or how they've come across and they've done something has just blown my mind because I never thought, oh, hey, if you looked at it this way, you could do something. Like I tell everybody all the time, there are 8,000 different ways to do something in the Power Platform. Like there's no one way that you have to do anything. Like you can come up with a solution 8,000 different ways. So if anybody tries to tell you, oh no, you can only do it this way, chances are that they have got it down to a science that way, but it's not the only way. So I love hearing from new users and people like I haven't heard from before, or even people that I have heard from before. Just, hey, check out this thing that you can do. And it's like, what? Okay, that one's going in the repertoire. But, anybody who's trying to get into the community, who wants to get back to the community, talking to people, talking to MVPs, talking to other people that, definitely look like they should be MVPs or contributing like they're MVPs, but they're not. That has also been a mind-blowing experience for me because I'm like, no, you're totally an MVP. And they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is not okay. Like, hold on, we need to fix this immediately. So talking to people that are out there that are doing things, just reaching out, they'd say all the time, like, not to meet your heroes because your heroes will let you down. And that has not been the case in this community. Like, talk to your heroes. If they don't answer you, don't take it like as a personal attack, because a lot of the times the folks that are doing this, that, people like Matthew, I know for a fact he has like notifications turned off so that he's not getting pinged every 2 seconds because somebody new is like messaging him. So a lot of the ways to like get in contact with him is going to be through interactions. So if like you're putting content out there, you're just dropping a post on LinkedIn about this new feature that you found, and like he starts to take notice, he'll start interacting with you, and then sooner or later you guys are going to connect and be part of his cat crew, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I love Matthew. Matthew is probably one of like the nicest people I've ever met, and like he tells me all the time, He's like, the first Microsoft Power Platform conference is like, there might not have been a contest of who won the conference, but you won the conference. I was like, all right, Matthew. I mean, I did run
I love
around as a
that.
dinosaur for a few minutes. Um,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, like I don't know if you know Chris Huntingford, pretty cool guy.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
he come into the speaker room. I'd gone into the speaker room because I was told I was technically a speaker because I was speaking for the community call. Um, so I was just sitting in there minding my own business, and I'm like seeing all of these people that I've like noticed from the Power Platform community like coming in, and they're just sitting in and hanging out and whatnot. And then Chris walks in, sits right across the table from me, like this big dude from South Africa, and he's just got on this t-shirt that's got a unicorn dressed in a dino suit and a dino dressed in a unicorn suit. And I was like, dude, that is the coolest shirt ever. Like, can I please get a picture with you in the shirt because my kid is going to die. Like, I even brought my dino suit with me, and he's like, what, you did? And I was like, yeah. He's like, somebody just gave me a dinosaur suit. And like immediately, like we hit it off. We ended up getting dressed up in the dino suits like a day later or something like that. Ran through the middle of this conference. People are like, what is happening? Ran across to the other building, ran up through the lunch area, just ran down either side, got to the end, went turned around and ran back out. Like it was the most insane thing ever, but it was the coolest. And like Chris and I
Yeah.
like love that dude too. Like
Yeah.
it's
And sorry,
go
please.
ahead. No, I will take over.
No. Please, like, this is all about you, Kat, and these are really interesting. I mean, like, it's literally just because I feel like I'll forget my questions and I just want to know more. Because when I started going to these conferences, I really struggled to go and introduce, because I used to go alone, right? I didn't know
Uh-huh.
anyone in the space. I really struggled to go and introduce myself to other people. Like, what would you say to give some guidance on events? Because there are some people that go to events, but you know, you can see them shying away in the
Uh-huh.
corner, or they're not really speaking to anyone, or they're always kind of hanging around with the same person, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But maybe to those people who want to go and, you know, get their names heard, or maybe they want to go and learn from other people, or introduce themselves, grow their network, etc. What have you? What would you say to those people? Because it seems like you have this ability to hit it off with people, and I don't know if that's a science or if it's just how
It,
you are.
I,
But
I I
yeah,
think it's who I am.
yeah,
I like all right, so this is the other crazy thing about me is I'm an introvert. Like
mm.
a lot of people when I tell them this, they're like, there's no way you're an introvert. And I 100% am. It's that what is it? INFP, I believe. It's either INFP or INFT. One of those, which basically means you're a tornado of some sort. And I can't remember if it's the T or the P that's kind of like this tornado. Um, it's the mediator type, I believe. And so I've always been able to like join people together. So like people who would never really talk to each other, been able to make that connection for people to then like continue to have conversations. Um, but so what happens is when I go to these conferences, that is where my ADHD takes over, and it's like new experience, new things, new people to talk to, people I haven't seen in forever. And so it's just my ADHD is off the charts, and I'm just like go 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 go. And then when I get home, I'm like, oh, somebody kill me. Nobody talk to me for like a month, please. Like I just want to crawl up in a hole and just like sleep for a week.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it drains the hell out of me. But
Hmm.
while it's happening, I am like on cloud nine. And so what I have to say to people, especially people who are they're attending and they want to talk to people, but they're afraid of talking to people or they don't know how to approach people, is to just go. Just go up to people and just talk to them. Because a lot of the times, especially like MVPs like myself, um, like we're out there and like we're talking with people, and a lot of the time if you come up and you introduce yourself, we're just gonna bring you into the fray, and we're just gonna have conversation with you and talk to you and try to get to know you and whatnot. Where like we don't hang out in clusters together and try to like exclude anyone. And we do, I don't know if, because you're an MVP too. So there's like, we have a WhatsApp group for MVPs.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the time what happens is when a new event is going on, we'll have a separate group that like breaks off into its own individual group so that we're not just drowning the main chat in content about the event and, you know, causing a whole bunch of FOMO. But we talk in this separate chat, and a lot of the time we're like, hey, remember, like, bring people in, talk, like, you see somebody standing around, like, talk to, like, just grab them and, like, say, hey, like, how are you doing? What's going on? Like, and so, like, a lot of the times, if I'm just standing around, say, in the community lounge and somebody is standing there, like, lost, I'll, like, looking lost, I'll just walk up to them, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, what's going on? Is something I can help you with? My name's Kat, you know, nice to meet you. And, like, just try to talk to them because a lot, like, I understand what it feels like to just be in a crowd of people and feel like a deer in the headlights and not know what to do. And
Hmm.
so I now take on that responsibility because I am an MVP. I am a leader in this community. That I want people to feel welcome and I want them to feel like they belong there. And so, you know, it's just a matter like my ADHD can get me and I can just be in the moment talking with a bunch of people and completely be oblivious to what's going on around me. Or if I'm standing
Hmm.
there by myself, I can sit there and see a whole bunch of people. I'm like, hey, let's talk, let's chat. Like you look like you could use a friend right now. You know, just get out there and like introduce yourself. I know it's super hard a lot of the time when you're like, oh my God, these are people that I look up to. These are people that I like, I've been watching on YouTube or I've been reading their blogs. Or, like, they would never have the time for me. And that's the complete opposite of the truth. Like,
Yeah.
the people in this community, the MVPs, are some of the most selfless people that I know. Like,
Yeah.
they will give back 110% of themselves. Like, it's insane to me. Because I mean, I've learned from MVPs almost my entire career. Like while I was at the state, I taught myself SQL. I taught myself VBA. I taught myself JavaScript and CSS and HTML and all of that. And so I would go out onto Google and I'd be like, how do I do this? Or what's going on with that? And so like I got really good with the Google foo, but I always ended up on Stack Overflow. And somehow on Stack Overflow, I always ended up on a set of messages where somebody had like the MVP logo neck. And I'm like, how do these people get to be MVPs? Like, this is insane to me. Like,
Hmm.
these are like some of the coolest people ever. They're just out here answering questions. Like, what?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, then I ended up finding the Power Platform community. And, you know, from there, I was like seeing questions and I was like, oh, hey, actually, I know the answer to that question. I can answer that question. And so, like, I would start to answer those questions. And then there was the idea out on there about parsing JSON. And that's kind of where I really started to get traction. And I ended up finding this simple solution, you know, put it in Power Apps. You got a whole bunch of JSON. You need it to parse it. Send it over to Power Automate. Put it into a HTML table. Spit that HTML table back over to Power Apps and split it all up using regex. And then using what comes out of there, you can essentially have a table, any JSON schema whatsoever, and you know you can get it out. And like that was just mind blowing for so many
Yeah.
people.
And and then there's the point where I get a lot, and I created resources for this because it's a point I get a lot, and it's people don't know what to post. I know I want to contribute to the community. I know I want to,
Mm-hmm.
give a bit more of myself. But what do I do? Everything's actually, or someone's already doing it, or they're doing it better. Like, what can I do? And I loved what you said about there's so many different ways to do to achieve the same thing,
Yeah.
and some people will find some ways easier than others and then those ways harder than others, etc. So I really like the concept that there's really something out there for everyone. Like, I spoke to a guy earlier today, I can't remember his name, but if you're watching this, you're really cool, and he speaks about how he wants to become the voice of design for Power Apps, and he wants to make sure that people's Power Apps don't look like they're made in 2014, which some of them do, which is a bit of a shame. But I really like those different niches, and I think it's a great place for people to go in and start contributing. You mentioned MVP, so I'm going to annoy you with the question that I'm sure you get
Of course.
often, but two things. Why should someone become an MVP? And how would you suggest they'd go about becoming an MVP? I'm going to phrase this very carefully because last time I got into trouble. How would you suggest they go about becoming an MVP if they were to have some aspirations to do
Yeah.
that?
So the way that I look at MVP is anybody who wants to be an MVP, like that is their personal or professional goal, they're probably not the right fit for an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anything against them. It is more to do with what the community is and why the MVPs are MVPs. Like I said before, MVPs are some of the most giving people that I have ever met. But being an MVP is not their be all end all. Being an MVP is just an added bonus. So, like, we just all went through renewals. For those that, after or before September of this year or September of last year that were awarded, we all just went through renewal. There's like some 3,000 of us that had to go through renewal. We had to fill out this form. This form was the worst form ever. Like, we all complain about it all the time. I did not put in all of my contributions for last year because it got to the point where I was like, if this isn't enough, then I'm not meant to be an MVP. Like, that's just the way it is. There are a lot of people who look at it like, if I don't become, like, if I'm not renewed, I'm screwed. And there's a lot of people that are like that. There's not that many that are like that. A lot of us, or most of us, were like, if we don't get to be MVP, then we don't get to be MVP. Like, it's nice to be recognized for our contributions, but it's not a necessity. Like, we don't have to be recognized in order to give back. And so for myself, when I'm talking to people about MVP, it's what are you doing now that gives you life? If that happens to coincide with the way, like, Microsoft awards people, then great. Let's nominate you. Let's put you through this process. Let's get you on the track of filling in this god awful form on a yearly basis, and let's do this. But people who they're trying to be an MVP, like that is all that they're after. It's really hard to try and nominate somebody who's doing that, because it seems like it's more about getting that acknowledgement and getting that award so that they have that to sit from like a place of or someplace higher. Like they feel like they need to speak to people from a higher place, where it's like that's not what it's about. Like I by all means, that I'm not the MVP to nominate you. Like, if there's an MVP out there who's willing to do that, then by all means let them do that. But that's not me. I'm looking for people who are willingly contributing back to the community, and they're doing it out of selflessness.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing it because it feeds their soul, or it feeds some part of them, and that's what they feel like. If they got the award, great, but that's not going to stop them from doing this.
Right.
Like, they would do it regardless of the award.
Yes.
So,
And I feel like there's also something to be said, and tell me if you agree with this, but for people who maybe go through it the other track where maybe it's a goal and then they lose it the next year because you can only hold up the mask. This is probably a bad analogy, but hold up the mask for so long if you're trying to force something that isn't you. People have families, people have kids, and if you really don't feel like it's a part of yourself, I think it's a thought to have if it's the thing that you should be going for, per se.
yeah. And it's not to say that people who have families, who have kids, who have all of these other things going on in their life, where they get awarded one year and then they lose it the next year, that they got it for the wrong reasons, and that I don't want anybody to think that that's what it's about.
Yes.
It's like we even have the option when we're going through renewal of identifying now that there were situations that came up during the year that, it kept us from doing contributions, and that's taken into consideration when reviewing the application. But
That's awesome. I had no idea about that.
yeah, so I know there were
Yeah.
several people that had to use that this past year because of life changes, like somebody who had a pregnancy and somebody else who had like multiple surgeries. And so, that is something that should be taken into consideration because, all of the years that previously that they've been doing contributions, it was totally worth it, that like everything that they were doing, indicated that they should be an MVP. And just because they've gone through a life situation shouldn't mean that they lose their MVP, just that it should be a consideration when they're reviewing the contributions for the year. So, I myself am a mother, I'm a wife, I've got a full-time job. I contribute where I can contribute. Um, and for me, that is enough. And if Microsoft doesn't see that it's enough and they don't re-award me, then, that's not, it's not for me. However, they did see the merit in the contributions that I did in the last year. And so they did award me or re-award me, for this year. But now it's a matter of making sure that I go through and I continue my contributions. And if something comes up, then, it's a matter of circumstance and it should be taken into consideration. But
Yeah.
having a family, having, a job, having, outside activities where you're volunteering your time and whatnot, that shouldn't preclude you from being able to contribute in a meaningful manner back to the community. So,
Yes.
like, that's why I say it's got to be something that's feeding you, because if you're doing this just for the award, then it's like you might be able to get it one year and then you'll lose it, but then it's hard, like it's very hard to sustain it if it's not something that's feeding you on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your mindset on that. And I'm usually careful about asking that question just because I understand that the way the community sees the award and the way, you know, you've helped me see the award as well. I think it's very important that we look at it through a lens of giving back rather than a lens of self-achievement.
Yeah.
And I genuinely feel like throughout the years I've experienced that self-achievement is very empty if you're not helping other people.
Uh-huh.
Like for me, throughout the year, the best thing has been getting the call from someone who said that they got a promotion in their job because of, following other MVPs and learning from their content and learning from what they've said as well. And that's something I wanted to speak to you about
Uh-huh.
too, because it seemed like you had a transition. I really like that your background was in data. I think that's awesome because I think the whole Power Platform is about data. And I think if you don't have data skills, then you should get some. That's
Yeah.
my opinion. But you had that transition, you had that call from Microsoft, and you had it from the other company.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to understand how that decision came about and what were the steps you took to make that transition a reality. Was it something that just happened, or was it kind of a plan?
So I literally do most of life without a plan. It's the ADHD in me that I'm literally like, let's see what happens. Like,
Hmm.
I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, don't call me for me to tell you no or to talk you out of something, because I'm an enabler. I will be behind you 155%. You should totally do this. I actually I had a call this weekend with somebody who was like, but if I go, then I might not have a ride home. And I'm like, yeah, but you know people, you know how to talk to people. Like, you have people skills. I know damn well that you could find somebody who could get you a ride closer so that you could find a way back home. And they were
Mm.
like, yeah. And the whole purpose was so that they could go, you know, make it so that somebody else in the community whose sibling was putting on an event or was playing at an event, they they couldn't make it to them because they were on different continents, but make it so that they could see their sibling perform at this event. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you no, because this other person is like a gem, like is a world treasure, and this person should always get everything because, oh my God, if anything ever happens to them, I'm rioting. But you know, to make their day because you were able to go do that, even if you didn't have a plan of action at the end of how to get back home. Like, I trust in you and your people skills. Go do it, and then give me all of the details about like what happened afterwards. And so he calls me back later and he's like, absolutely, you were the best. Everybody else told me no, this was a dumb idea. I now have 5 options for making my way home. And I was like, see, I told you. Like, don't call me to tell you no, because I'm behind you 155%.
Love it. Love it.
So, like, I don't do anything with a plan. It is literally like, this seems like the right thing to do. Let's do it. Now, when it comes to big decisions, like, hey, I'm going to transition out of working for the state and go work in the private sector and commercial space, like, that took a lot. Like, big decisions, it takes a lot for me to, like, pull a trigger. But I'm trying, like, I need to know the pros and cons. Like, what happens if this? What happens if that? It's not really with a plan, it's more with knowledge that I make a decision. And so, early 2000, what was it? 2022? So early 2022, I had a situation that came up at work where I realized, hey, maybe this isn't the right place for me. Like, if before that, it really did feel like I'd found my people and I thought I was going to be there forever and ever. And then the situation happened. And I don't know if people have heard of this with ADHD before, but this rejection sensitivity disorder, or RSD, when something bad happens and then all chaos, like, literally nothing makes sense anymore. That's when I was like, no, I probably need to get out of here. But at the time, I was working in the Power Platform, and I was like, I had never been able to answer that question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I don't do anything with a plan. I don't normally have goals. I don't normally, like, that's just, it's a foreign concept to me to be able to answer that question. And so as I'm like working on an application for my organization, and I'm like, I see myself doing this in the next 5 years. I see myself developing in the Power Platform. What do I need to do in order to get there? And so I had started reaching out to my network, and I made friends with somebody who worked at Microsoft. And I was like, I don't have a background in development, computer science, computer engineering, any of that. I went to school for biology, and then I went to school for art. I don't have, quote unquote, the background or the informational, like, foundations for this. You work at Microsoft, you work, like, you are in IT and whatnot. Would you be willing to be a reference for myself? And she was like, absolutely. If you ever wanted to come work at Microsoft. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Huh? And so then she, like, put me in for a cloud solution architect position, and then filled that out and went through that whole process. And that, I was just like, I was floored. One, that Microsoft was even willing to talk to me about, like, going to work for them, because I'm like, I'm just me. Like, what do they want with me? That's weird. Like, I had been made to believe for a long time that I was good, but I wasn't that good. And so, hearing that somebody like Microsoft was interested in talking to me, and potentially, like, even then when they offered me the job, completely floored, almost to the point where I was like, this is a joke. This can't be. So.
And Kat, sorry to interrupt you, but if you're comfortable answering, maybe some people are also going through the same thing, because I feel like I had a big confidence knock early in my career, and it crushed me. And I was like, I'm not cut out for this Power Platform thing. I hate it. I'm done. Why? You don't have to explain the whole story, but why what happened in the sense of someone made you feel like, I'm paraphrasing here, but someone made you feel like you weren't as good as you were? And how did you get over that?
So it is a constant in my career, or has been a constant in my career, where people have come to me or they've explained some problem that they're having where they don't know how to achieve the outcome that they're being asked for.
Mm.
And I look at it and I'm like, huh, well, what if you did it like this? Or what if you did it like that? Or what if this, that, or the other? And so the way that my brain thinks, it doesn't think in a linear path. My brain literally takes every experience that I've ever had and it starts to go down those paths. And it's like when I'm sitting in meetings with people and they're explaining the problem, my brain is literally coming up with solutions as they're talking.
Mm. Yep.
And it's very hard for me to pay attention a lot of the times when somebody's like, oh, this can't be done, because I'm like, here's all the different ways that it could be done. Like,
Yes.
and so my brain comes up with solutions and it's like, maybe it's the beginning of the solution or it's like a kind of overall idea of how this solution could be achieved. It might not be the minutia and the detail of it, but I know it can be done. And so a lot of the times what would happen is, hey, Kat's got an idea how this can be done. Let her run with it. Let her, take off with it. And so I would get to a hard part or some part that like it was tripping me up and I couldn't really get past it. And I would come at it from 30,000 different ways. I'd Google foo the heck out of trying to figure out how somebody else came up with a solution. And it would get to the point that I'd be like a dog with a bone and refuse to let go. And so my ADHD that's all I could focus on. That was the hyper focus. And so what would happen is I would lose track of time. Like I have no sense of time whatsoever. Like, which is weird because I do have a sense of time for other things. Like I know exactly how long it takes to get from point A to point B, but I get the ADHD in my head is like, oh no, you can totally like do this thing for 30 seconds and be fine. And like, I don't realize that 30 seconds has turned into 5 minutes and now I'm definitely going to be late. So like, I know exactly how long it'll take to get from point A to point B, but I don't recognize how much time has passed to get somewhere. And so a lot of the time what would happen is I would get down this rabbit hole trying to figure out the problem, forgetting, hey, time is passing you by. People are still relying on this. And so it's a struggle that I have even to this day of trying to balance how far I can go down the rabbit hole versus, okay, now it's time to take a step back and go at this another direction. So it's rough. And I don't know that I have an answer for people that are like, what do you do? But, that situation that came up that, started me on this path of, well, maybe I'd go into IT. Like, it was a situation where it was another one of those times where I'd lost track of time and, it was, hey, well, we need to do something about this. And I had no say in what was going on. Anything that I would try to bring up, it sounded to them like I was making an excuse. And it was a situation in which we were no longer communicating effectively. And I was just like, I need a change. So.
Yeah. And honestly, like it's one of those things, it's one of those moments that really makes you think. And I really resonate with what you say in relation to sometimes it could feel like you're doing something and time's not passing. I like to call it a flow state where it can be a good thing or a bad thing. But sometimes like I know I'm truly doing what I love to do when I take a look at a time and there has been hours that have passed. So I completely resonate with what you're saying. And in terms of those situations, I mean, something I will definitely say is something that's helped me anyway, is picking myself up and trying to dust myself up and to just realizing that these moments, these failures just build you more.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not even failures. Sometimes they're just situations that you were a part of. But I think when you take them into other stages in your career, like, for example, my example, I shared this today very subtly, but I got let go from a startup when I started off early in my career.
Mhm.
We had plans in the beginning for my growth and where we'd be. He had big plans for the company that he was doing for growing. And there was we'll call it a miscommunication. A few months went by, I wasn't good enough, and then I got let go.
Yeah.
So that completely sucked. And I remember quitting the Power Platform. I was like, I'm not doing this. But I got back into a corner where I was like, I need Power Platform right now. I
Mhm.
need what it can give me, what it can give to my career, what it can give to my joy. And I think it's very important to know that sometimes a mistake or a failure or a hiccup in your career is necessary to take you to where you can be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just a piece I wanted to say and something I wanted to highlight that you were talking about because I feel like a lot of people listening have experienced that as well. Um,
Yep, we're good.
okay, awesome. Well, Kat, I also wanted to ask about you being a co-leader of this accessibility user group. You mentioned how important it is to you. I want to dig into accessibility a little bit more and just kind of understand why you started that, why it was so important. Anya Black, of course, is a well-known name in the space for UX and UI. She has the Power Platform Cookbook,
Mhm.
and then Charles Sexton as well does his greatness with the Power Platform and Power Apps specifically as well. So what was the motive? Because I can envision some story where you guys all kind of geeked out in like a room about starting this. So what's the story behind that? And then yeah, like what do you have planned for it?
So I don't know if you know of a person in the community, Christine Kozaleski.
I haven't. No, I
Just a
can't
little
say.
name.
Yeah.
She does a lot of UX UI stuff. She's more formula racing lately, but
Understood. Right. I'm with you.
she I met her in the very first Power Platform Community Conference. Like we had kind of chatted online before that on Twitter, and I told her I was like, "Hey, I'm from Florida. Love to like show you around Universal Studios. I'm annual pass member. Like know how much you love Harry Potter, like whatnot." And so we got to meet up. She helped me with my great grandmother's birth certificate. She's Polish, and my great grandmother's birth certificate was Polish, and so like I had tried my best to decipher what was going on, and then she kind of helped me figure it out. But
Yeah.
at that conference, she was giving a presentation on some of the stuff that she was doing with UX and UI, and I had also met Donna Sakar at that conference, and like between various things that had come up, we were like, oh my God, how great would it be to have a UX, UI, or accessibility user group? And the three of us, being the squirrel brains that we are, we're like, this is fantastic, this is awesome. And then we went about our lives and nothing ever really came of it. Then back in April last year, I joined on with Hitachi, and almost like 2 weeks after I joined on with Hitachi, I was presenting for the Power Platform Community Conference call. And I was talking about, I think, JSON again, because they call me the JSON whisperer in the Power Platform community.
Love it. Yeah.
To the point that somebody came up to me at the last conference and they were like, "You're the JSON whisperer. Can you help me with this JSON problem?" I was like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
But on that call, Anya was in on that call as well, and she works for Hitachi, but she works for Hitachi Solutions Europe. And so she had reached out to me after that call through our internal tenant and was just like, "Hey, I just saw you on the community call. Really loved your content. I've been following you for a while. Um, like, can we get together and chat?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so her and I had started talking, and she started telling me about how she'd started up this user group with Charles on LinkedIn. And I was like, well, why don't we make this official? Like, why don't we actually go through the official process with Microsoft and come up with an actual user group that's sponsored by Microsoft, if you will. Like, Microsoft doesn't give you anything for it. They just basically, they're like, yeah, no, you apply for it, and now you're officially a user group. And I was like, why don't we just go through this process and do it? And so, like, they were all for it, and we ended up having like a mission, vision, values type discussion on like, what does this user group mean to us? Like, what is it that we're trying to do? How are we trying to come about this? And then we just decided to kick it off and move forward with it. In July of last year was our first call, and we've now made it a year and had our last call this last month. We're taking a break here in August to try and recollect our thoughts and come together for a more solid plan, and then we'll be back up and running again in September. But, like, freaking love this. Like, just getting to talk about UX, UI, and accessibility on a monthly basis with people from all over the community, and like getting to connect and meet up with others who are just as jazzed about this has been incredible. So I love it.
And so important, and something that I shameless plug here, but I cover in the program that I released is design for model-driven apps, because I feel like it can go understated. You get the left navigation, you get the views, you get the forms, but there's so much more you can do with them. Custom pages, even small things like emojis to tabs and those types of things. I think,
man, please go.
Yeah. Wait, okay, right. I think we're gonna end the podcast here. So, Kat, it's been a pleasure to do. No, I'm just kidding. So, I think I know your stand on this because I did stalk you for a while in preparation for this. But does this have to do with screen readers?
It does. It has a lot.
Okay, no, please. The floor is yours, Kat. Let's speak about it.
No, so I love screen readers because screen readers help not only people who are visually impaired but have temporary impairments, meaning they're in a situation in which they're not capable of seeing their screens. Here in the state of Florida, we have sunshine. We're known as Sunshine State. Your apps, as brilliantly as they may be designed, are usually designed for people who are not standing outside in the sunshine.
Right.
And so if you don't have a dark mode ability on your application, it's really hard to see your app. But if you have a screen reader can read through your app and help you figure out what needs to be filled in. Like, it can talk to you and you can hear what's going on. So screen readers are super important to me because they are going to help people, whether or not they have the ability to see, understand what's going on in your app. And so screen readers are not capable of reading emojis. They're not capable of reading fonts that are like text in a different font. So like using Unicode characters from different, setting, like it's hard for screen readers. And so I am very, I feel very strongly about ensuring that whatever it is that you've put on the screen is readable by a screen reader, because otherwise it's you're cutting off someone's ability to be able to understand like everyone else.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I'm glad you've given that insight, because that is super important. And I think it's something that we don't give enough consideration to. Like, when I started building my Power Apps, I think we can all relate to this. You click on the info and there's like 250 plus warnings. You're like, what is all of this? And you click on it and it's all accessibility. And I used to ignore them. I choose not to anymore for the exact reason that you stated. But, even things like the Microsoft technology we're using encourage us to promote accessibility, and I think it's important. And I'm glad you disagreed with me, because I do need to get in check with those emojis, because I do feel like I've been going a bit too much with them.
I am a fan of emojis myself. I love emojis. Like, they're another way for me to express myself, but using them as a way to try and express something that somebody needs to know about when they're using your application, that is something that I kind of frown upon. Like, if it's an emoji just to like express how you feel about something, fine, great, use it. But if it's something that somebody needs to be able to understand in order to use your application, that's where I'm kind of like, maybe not the emojis. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to have an offline conversation about screen readers, because I actually have an issue that I'm running into with one of them. But Kat, the user group that you have, what kind of speakers are you looking for? What kind of people can come and speak? Because I think everyone.
Literally everyone. We want people who have done this forever and people who have just started doing this. Like, literally
love it.
Anything. Like, if you have done something as far as accessibility, UX or UI goes, like, share it with us, please. for the love of
Yeah.
all things holy, higher, and out there, like, share it with us, because it's not just myself and Anya and Charles that it's getting shared with. It's literally anybody who comes to the user group, who goes and finds the YouTube videos, just anybody. So
Yeah.
it's worth it. Like, if you have found something, share it. Like, don't keep
Love
it
it.
to yourself. Just share it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be a gatekeeper. I used to have a friend, he was really annoying, and he used to play the best music, and then I'd be like, "What song is that?" And he'd be like, "I'm not telling you." And then I found
I have this
Shazam,
friend
and
who
then
does that too. It drives me
that's
insane. I'm
so
like,
annoying. Oh my God, it annoys me. And yeah, then he found out I had Shazam on my phone, and then he stopped playing good music. So yeah, that was the end of that. But yeah, don't gatekeep your cool solutions. Share them, and
yes.
be active in the community if you can. If you can spare the time, help someone. And I genuinely think I had a complete different direction for this podcast, but I love where it went in terms of community and speaking about the help we can give in that regard. So I'm going to close off because we're getting close to the hour. But Kat, you've been an amazing guest. I always like to roll out the red carpet at the end. Let the people know what you're up to. Let them know where they can find you. The floor is yours.
I mean, there's LinkedIn is mainly where I'm at most of the days. I've got my Blue Sky, that has kind of fallen by the wayside just because social media has not been my forte lately. But there's the user group, what is it? I'll get you the link for it somewhere, but it's usually anything is UX UI allies or A11YS. And yeah, like, just doing my thing out here. Like, working with
I'll
product
stay awesome,
groups
Kat.
and, yeah.
Honestly, we love what you're doing in the community. I was very excited for this conversation because, yeah, you've been crushing it. And yeah, looking forward to meeting you in an event. And then people now know that they can just come up to you and annoy you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Shenanigans, like, that is my thing. I have a shirt that literally says, if I shenan once, I'll shenan again. So it's the best.
That is a good shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get me that. Okay, awesome. Kat, thank you very much for coming on. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for listening. Take it easy. See you,
Have a
Kat.
good one. Bye.